my name is Gretta Lermeny, and today I'll be performing The Blizzard That Changed Weather Forecasting. Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Samantha Johnson, and today is January 12, 2026. The weather today is clear skies. The high will be 47 and the low is 32. On this day in weather history, 138 years ago, the Children's Blizzard of 1888 occurred. The reaction from this historical event led to reform in weather forecasting. The day started out warm and clear. Children went to school in light clothing and people did morning chores. Then in the early morning, the low pressure system drew an Arctic air mass down from Canada. This mixed with warm moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, creating an extreme storm or blizzard. The leading edge of cold prairie air went through like a tidal wave, hitting a small part of Idaho and hit Montana hard. As it came across the plains, it did not slow down. It hit North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska harder. Over 235 people died total, 213 of them being children. A Valley Springs farmer explained how the storm felt. About 3:30, we heard a hideous roar. At first, we thought it was the Omaha train, which had been blocked and was trying to open the track. The storm came as if it had slid out of a sack. A hurricane-like wind blew, snow drifted high in the air, and it became terribly cold. Within a few minutes, it was as dark as a cellar, and one could not see a hand in front of their face. The blizzard caused many fatalities, injuries, and people to step up to be heroes and heroines. Many heroes and heroines were school teachers like Minnie Freeman and Seymour Dopp. Minnie Freeman was a school teacher in Mirror Valley, Nebraska, who saved her 13 students after the schoolhouse roof blew off in the blizzard. She carried the youngest one and tied the other 12 with twine so they would not get lost. They walked a mile to a nearby farmhouse. Seymour Dopp was a male school teacher in Pond City, Nebraska, who saved all his 17 students by keeping them in the schoolhouse until the next morning. They kept warm by burning firewood and covering themselves with blankets. There were many people that were injured, most of them from frostbite. Most had frostbite on their fingers, toes, hands, feet, noses, ears, and some limbs. Some people did not get so lucky and had passed. Many fatalities that occurred were from the school children walking home. Some examples were Walter Allen and two brothers, Isaac and John. Walter Allen was an 8-year-old boy who ran back to get his beautiful glass perfume bottle, but then became disoriented and passed in the blizzard. Two brothers, Isaac and John, also didn't survive the blizzard. They were just meters away from their doorstep when they were found frozen and holding one another. Another fatality that occurred was the story of a pioneer woman. I, Ada, in the mid-1880s, stepped off the train in Bismarck in the Dakota Territory as Ada Hill from Concord, Vermont, ready to start my new teaching job, which I had found in a newspaper. I was excited because before this new opportunity, my occupation was a servant. Sadly, I found out it was a job for a saloon gal. I was devastated as I was a modest woman still looking for work, so I started cleaning houses. While I was cleaning houses, I met a young man, Otis Ty, who was 5 years older than me and would later become my husband. In the fall of 1887, Otis and I moved downward to the Slim Buttes in Hardin County, which is part of the Dakota Territory. We brought Otis's trapping line, a team of horses, and our little pet dog, Hank. We made a dugout on the side of the hill to live in. Otis had found a job on the Jones Brother Ranch, commonly known as the JB Ranch, where, in the winter, Abe Jones offered Otis a month's employment of working with horses. I stayed back at the ranch to work on a dress I was going to wear to an upcoming ranch party. I also stayed back to check the trap line and the team of horses. The day of January 12th started out peacefully. It was warm, clear, and the sun was shining. I was with my dog Hank when the blizzard started in the early afternoon after lunch. First thing I thought of were the horses and how I should get them to safety so they would not wander off during the storm. I came to the opening of our dugout, put on my shawl, feeling the cold air from the outside coming in. I stepped outside of the dugout, feeling the brisk air. It felt like it had dropped at least 20 degrees in just a few minutes. We went down the hill looking for the horses. As we went on, the storm got worse. It became a blizzard with snow so white I could barely see my hands in front of me as I tried to walk, and wind so strong it felt like someone was in front of me, continuously pushing me down. I tried to call for Hank to see if he was still by my side. I couldn't tell if whether my dog was by my side or if I was uphill or downhill. Every time I tried to call for Hank, my voice would just come back at me. I couldn't couldn't see anything but white, couldn't hear anything but my own voice and thoughts, and couldn't feel anything from being so numb from the cold. I slowly became disoriented. Hank! Hank! I, Ada Ty, feeling confused and lost, lay down on the cold frozen ground and died on January 12, 1888 at the young age of 22. This tragic event was just one from the many stories from the day of the children's blizzard. Once the storm broke, my husband Otis and some of the men on the ranch came to check on our dugout. Arriving at our home, they found it empty. They began searching for me, but having found no luck, they were forced to return back to the ranch since Otis had severe frostbite on his hands and feet. After receiving enough medical attention on the JV ranch, Otis and the men returned back to the dugout to search again. Searching only for a little while, they started to hear our dog barking faintly. Following Hank's barking, they finally found our faithful dog standing guard over my body, only my arm being visible above the snow. They took me back to our dugout, covered me in a wool blanket, buried me under a pine tree, and placed a wood marker by my grave. In the early 1900s, the wood marker burned in a fire. Making sure that would not happen again, a group of people placed a cement slab marking where I was buried. On the marker it says, "In memory of Mrs. Otis Ty, wife of a homesteader who perished in a blizzard on January 12, 1888, at the young age of 22, trying to save their team, her husband being away from the root home," meaning I was alone at home when the blizzard happened, and I died trying to save our team of horses. Our dugout and my grave and our dugout are still in Slim Buttes near Riva, South Dakota. Our dugout today is just a medium-sized hole in the ground near my grave. This story and many others helped revolutionize the U.S. Weather Bureau, which is what we use to forecast many weather events today. The history of the U.S. Weather Bureau began in 1849 when Smithsonian institutions applied weather instruments to telegraph companies and established extensive observation networks. Observations were submitted by telegraph to the Smithsonian where weather maps were created. In 1860, 500 stations were furnishing daily reports to a newspaper, the Washington Evening Star, but were interrupted by the Civil War. As the network grew, other systems were incorporated, including many state weather services. In 1870, Joint Congressional Resolution was introduced requiring the Secretary of War to, quote for quote, provide for taking meteorological observations in the military stations in the interior of the continent and at other points in the states and territories. When the children's blizzard of 1888 happened, it caused a wide reaction of shock and devastation. This reaction from all the fatalities opened people's eyes and exposed many critical weaknesses in weather forecasting. People finally realized the severity for warning the public more accurately about extreme weather and temperature changes. Storm also broke many telegraph lines, which were needed to warn people in the storm's path. This highlighted the need for better communication and modernize the telegraph. This eventually led to creating an infrastructure for the newly invented telephone. It also highlighted the need to transform it from an observational role to be more proactive and predictive. On October 1st, 1890, the Weather Service was first known as a civilian agency. At the request of President Benjamin Harrison, Congress passed an act transferring the meteorological observations responsibilities to the newly invented U.S. Weather Bureau and the Department of Agriculture. The U.S. Weather Bureau became responsible for issuing blizzard and flood warnings to the public. In 1894, William Eddy used 5 kites to lift a self-recording thermometer, making the first temperature observations aloft. All these changes were significant to reform weather forecasting and make sure a tragic event like this would never happen again. All these factors combined made an important historical event, some of the events still happening today, with many meteorologists, including me, still finding ways to forecast weather.